Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Tactical Leader. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Danielle Mulvey, and we're going to talk about the All In Company and how she helps really break apart what five-star employees and qualities really look like. Before we begin, I want to remind you this show is brought to you by Nightly Productions. If you're looking to get on more podcasts, stages, and really get your story crafted, head over to nightly.productions to find out how we can help you discover, embrace, and then share your voice through tactical content production. Again, that's nightly.productions. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I am super excited about this one. We've had it on the calendar for a good little while, and it's a conversation that I think is one that is needed, and we haven't really talked about it much on this show, and it's full of tactics. So I think it's going to be a great one. To give the audience just a little bit about you before we dive into that, you are a former flight attendant turned entrepreneur, bless your heart, the flight attendant piece. And you've cracked the code on recruiting, hiring, and retaining what you refer to as five-star employees with the beautiful integration in the logo. I absolutely love that. You're never one to settle for average. You have scaled your companies over 50 million in annual revenue while spending less than 10 hours each week overseeing operations. Your own team of trusted five-star employees provide you with the freedom to spend the rest of your work week guiding other entrepreneurs through podcasting, workshops, and community curating, which is another huge piece of everything that's happening right now. In addition to running your companies and assisting entrepreneurs, you are the chief curator of the All In Company community, which strategically advises entrepreneurs on attracting and hiring five-star employees. You know that in order to succeed, leaders need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable and go all in on their employees, who will reciprocate and go all in on the company. Some of the best tactics you can really ask for right there. And I can't wait to unpack it. Before we dive all in, I'm going to steal that. That's good. Before we dive all in, tell us, what's a fun fact that we might not know about you?
Oh, this is going to kill you, Zach. The fun fact about me is I am a Commodore from Vanderbilt University alumni. So kind of the funny thing about that is I was a California girl who went to college at Vanderbilt during a time many moons ago when no one was going from California. So when I told my friends I was going to Vanderbilt from high school, they're like, "You're going to learn how to make jeans?" They thought I was going to the Gloria Vanderbilt School of Jean Design, I guess. So anyways,
I
that
mean,
is
that's
a
like
fun fact.
same, right? That's like kind of the same type of learning and education you got, right?
Sure,
Totally,
sure.
totally. No, I'm teasing, and I'm curious because obviously it's one of those. You've had a very different journey, I would say. Where at Vandy, you were on communications poli sci, you
Mhm.
focused in that arena, became a flight attendant,
Yeah.
which is it's one of those careers that is a lot of fun. I imagine you get to travel. I love traveling. Obviously, in the last couple of years, that's changed up a little bit. What got you started in that direction where you wanted to? I mean, obviously, customer experience is everything in the airlines.
Yeah, so this might be TMI. It was the fact that my college boyfriend was going to be a fifth year senior. So it was I went and became a flight attendant as sort of like my gap year to kind of wait out his graduation and just kind of see how things would play out. Long story short, they didn't play out well. But anyways, yeah, so I was a flight attendant, and what's really interesting about that is I the probably the I learned my most valuable business lesson being a flight attendant. And I mean, my employees, like I've said this to them so many times that I mean, I think I get eye rolls when I start down this questioning, and I bring it up all the time in interviews with candidates and just reminding my team and why we're doing things and such. So, Zach, do you know why airplanes do not fall out of the sky?
It has a pilot. It's got to be employees related, right? Or
So
science or
actually
something.
no, it's actually not necessarily employee related. Airplanes don't fall out of the sky because pilots follow a checklist.
Mm.
So there is no margin for error because they're following a checklist. So whether a pilot has 1,000 hours of flying or 5,000 hours of flying experience, they have to follow a checklist for every stage of the flight. And because they're following that checklist, there's no, I mean, it's sort of done for you. And it's going to be done every time. And that is why airplanes don't fall out of the sky. So how many checklists do you have in your business? Where are
Yeah.
things not working in your business, and are people following a checklist? So it's really important to document what you're doing, be consistent in what you're doing, and checking off the steps that you're doing to get those consistent results.
And I was going to ask that piece of it. In the business world, I'm on that COO, fractional COO space. So I love helping people with this, not necessarily this specifically with the checklist, but with the processes, with how do you go from prospect to fulfillment? And a lot of small business owners struggle with a replicatable process. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this experience is this way, this experience is that way. And you mentioned the airline side, the experience has to be phenomenal every single time. Being here in Atlanta with Delta being a huge brand, if your experience with Delta is poor, it starts reflecting on that brand. And on the small business level, not the Delta level, it's one of those where it will literally move the needle in a very negative way if that experience isn't a good one. So when you say checklist, can you be more specific about what you mean with the checklist? Is it literally, I got my piece of paper here and I'm going down, check, 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 check?
Yeah, I mean, every process and system in your business should have repeatable steps that makes it happen. So, in our businesses, I mean, we have checklists for everything. Like how to invoice a client, how to add a new sales tax rate into our ERP system. How do we go about doing a launch? How do we go about what's the process for welcoming members? What do they go through? What do we do when we complete a program? There's a checklist for that. So it's really, just to have things documented again, so that you're consistently providing a great experience. And the other thing is about documenting it and kind of having it in a bullet form, like checklist format, is, you can constantly improve upon it, because, when we were actually doing an audit today of a 3-week intensive we just wrapped up last week. And, we're already making it better, but we used, we were going through our checklists of what we did and how we did it, and deciding what we need to improve upon, or what we need to change, and improving upon that checklist. But, our next intensive will follow, this new and improved checklist. But it's so important to have things, and it kind of ties back to hiring and to recruitment, which is kind of the topic that I'm here to talk about, is that, when you bring on an employee, them hitting the ground running and being able to be productive and have purpose in your company out of the gate is so important to that their first experience with your company, and to their retention in your organization. And when you have things organized and documented, and they've got a resource and they can just kind of jump in and figure it out, be shown it once, but it's there, it's repeatable, they just have to follow it again. They're going to be successful out of the gate, and they're going to have a great experience. And what's also interesting is, here's a great hack: if you don't have as many processes and systems documented in your organization, then those new hires, you train them on how to do it, and their first assignment is documenting the processes and systems, and that's how you start building it. So you can make that hire, but just make sure when you bring on that hire and you're showing them that they're actually responsible for documenting the processes and systems. This is an unsolicited, if you don't mind me saying, but I looked for a long time for the perfect way to keep our processes and systems and our checklists in a nice, like, if I could design this platform, because I've been an entrepreneur for almost 25 years now, and typically you document processes and systems, it was done in a Word document, and then it gets loaded onto whatever, and it's not really top of mind and such, but airmanual.co is a really nice, simple platform that allows you to like drop in a video, drop in a link to a document, or and it also allows you to create interactive checklists that you can use. So, for some of our processes and systems, when someone's going to do something, they literally pull up the checklist and they're literally checking it off in Air Manual as they're going through it and doing it. And again, that ensures accuracy, consistency, predictable results when you're following a checklist.
And you hit the nail on the head of where I was going with asking about those checklists, because that's what I've seen, especially that 5 employees or less small business owner, right? As they're still a not even a business owner, they're an employee of their own business still. They haven't even perfected their process yet. So why the mindset seems to be, why document a process that isn't perfect? So when they hire somebody, they bring, even if it's something, bringing in a VA, bringing in somebody, and they get frustrated because, oh, this person can't do it right. This person, and there's a delegation piece where they don't want to delegate because nobody can do it as good as I can. And that's the mindset. But also they don't know how to do it because you never explained it. And that frustration comes out, which is why I was asking about the checklist piece, because that is something that so many people play catch up with. Should you do it as you're launching the business, or should you wait for the process to figure itself out, that a profitable process, if you will?
I think once you're doing it, you start documenting it. And then what you have to do is you've got to schedule audits of your processes. I mean, I mentioned we have a checklist for invoicing a particular client, and that client gets invoiced weekly. And we have been invoicing this client since January 2012, so over 10 years. And we've gone through over the years, and it was last year, and updated that process and system. And we've made it better. We've cut our time doing it. We've made it easier for the client to review it. It requires a lot of backup and documentation and other evidence and such in the invoice. But once you start doing something, you start documenting it, and then that just kind of creates the opportunity to come back in, have an audit process and make it better. And what's cool about that is when you start with something somewhere, when you bring on that employee who now is taking over and inheriting that checklist, challenge them after a period of time, of doing it. Hey, how can we make this better? When people feel ownership over something, like that just is, that's where they go all in. When they feel like they own it, and they can make it better, and they can be contributing, and they know exactly, that they'll be successful, then I mean, that just is part of the secret to keeping and retaining 5-star employees.
And that kind of goes into that piece of the 5-star employee part. Is it something that, and I've heard it in the past, you only want to hire those 8s, 9s, 10s, or those 5-star people. Mm-hmm. But this day and age, it seems like nobody can hire, nobody can retain. And is it something that you're hiring somebody and training them into being a 5-star, or is there a system to find that?
Zach, are we really going to believe the media? So the media is saying,
I don't know. Should we?
The media is saying that there is no one to hire. But that's not true. So,
millions of people are unemployed right now. Like, the employment rate is still there, right? Which means there are somewhere, someplace people to hire.
Yeah. I mean, I've been hiring people. I've had no, if anything, I've had an increase in applicants when we have open positions, over, since COVID. And, maybe for a couple of reasons, like some of our positions have gone remote. So that's going to, naturally increase the number of applicants. But, when it's time to recruit and hire, the most important thing to start with is a positive mindset. And I've talked to people who, in organizations that I'm member of, and they know like my expertise and such, and they'll text me and they'll be like, oh, I mean, I don't know exactly how you text that, but trust me, this is the feeling that comes across. I need to hire, and I just don't want employees, and I just don't have the time and whatever. And it's like, well, like that's a bad attitude. And you're not going to find 5-star people when that's your attitude.
And I keep hearing there's nowhere to find them. I don't know where to find these people. I don't know where to find somebody that doesn't have a job or is looking for a job. And that seems to be that same kind of right off the bat negative piece of it.
So let me tell you, that is BS. There are plenty of great people out there. And if anything, people right now are probably more actively actively and passively seeking better opportunities. So when we talk about recruiting and hiring, let's be honest, most people are just posting on Indeed or posting on ZipRecruiter. They're posting
lackluster job
one job poster with a vanilla blah blah
copy and paste,
blah,
copy
blah.
and paste from the other vanilla one.
Exactly, a copy and paste. Wow,
you know so much
secrets. You know people's hacks. Yeah,
saves time
hack,
that way.
Right.
Let me copy and paste it. And I'll definitely find somebody, because they have to be finding them, because there's also a job posting for the same thing over there, right?
Oh my goodness, that nailed it. That is the problem. That's the start of the problems.
And is that just laziness, or is that just like not knowing any better?
You know what?
Have you seen?
It's not being intentional is what it is. It is, again, kind of the mindset of like, not looking forward to this. I don't have time for this. I'm just going to like copy and paste, and we'll see what happens. And so, and what do you get? You get an average ho-hum or worse employee. When you put no effort into it, when you don't go all in on your recruiting, you don't get 5-star employees. In fact, most businesses are only successful at hiring a 5-star employee about 25% of the time. So for every 4 hires, only 1 is a 5-star employee, and the other 3 are average ho-hum or worse, 1, 2, or 3-star employees. And the problem is it's really kind of, they're lucky that they get that 5-star employee. But when you get intentional about deciding exactly what you need, exactly what you want, being objective in your hiring process, casting as wide of a net as possible so you get plenty of applicants and you don't have to settle, that's when you get a 5-star employee. And the 5-star employee rating system, which we'll talk about in the next episode, or in the tactical episode, really allows you to get to that objective hire and objectively rate and sift out the 1, 2, 3-star employees so that you're not tempted and you don't settle for less than 5-star employees.
And yeah, I definitely want to keep the tactics a secret for now. Let's keep the allure before we dive into that process. But I want to know why, obviously, hearing you talk about it, this is a passion piece for you, right? You started a company. Most entrepreneurs, most business owners are passionate about what they're doing. And that's obviously coming out. Why is this such a big deal to you? Why do you care about other companies' employees?
Yeah. So, well, a couple of things. Right now, I really care about people's happiness, and so often, someone who is a 3-star employee, is just really in the wrong position, in the wrong job, in the wrong role, or as Jim Collins would say, in the wrong seat on the wrong bus, and maybe going in the wrong direction. And so, and that's sort of the problem of the employee and the employer. But I believe the employer has a greater responsibility to make sure that they're really understanding what they need exactly in a candidate, what they also don't want in a candidate, and using that filter and litmus test, the 5-star employee rating system, to make sure that they're not making that mishire. Because here's the ironic thing. When someone applies for a job, they want the job. Even if it's not right, no one wants to be rejected. So candidates tend to, overpromise, say they can do it, think they can fake it until they make it. And most employers aren't testing candidates. So, someone says, "Hey, I'm a bookkeeper." Okay, great. You're hired. Can you start Monday? I mean, I could get a bookkeeping position tomorrow. I could get 3 offers for bookkeeping positions. But you know what? I would be a 2-star bookkeeper. I can say I can do the job. I know enough QuickBooks to be dangerous, but I would hate it. It is not my forte, but I could do it.
Is that? How scary is that that's
How
happening in
true is it?
organizations? It is. And that's what terrifies me, because I remember the early days. I used to do my QuickBooks. I used to do my bookkeeping. But to think about something that is so crucial to business quickly being handed off to an untested, untrusted person that you're like, "Oh, absolutely. I'll give
Happens
you, here's the
95%
login."
of the time.
That's terrifying.
And any position, I mean, come on, let's be honest. Let's be honest. How many people in this audience are really vetting their candidates, spending a lot of time with them and testing them to ensure that they are going to hit the ground running? They have the qualities, the aptitudes and skills, the alignment of core values. I'm teasing the Friday episode here. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Think about it. When most businesses are spending about an hour interviewing a candidate and deciding, okay, you're hired. And that 1 hour is going to cost them $50,000 a year salary. That's not even including payroll taxes and benefits and things like that. So you spend 1 hour and you're going to make a $50,000 investment in an employee.
It's probably because they answered their weaknesses really well. They told them all about their great weaknesses, right? Because that's the best question to ask.
They asked basic questions. They didn't get at the true heart of what they need specifically for the job. You're exactly right. They Googled the questions 5 minutes before the candidate came in.
And I laugh because I can't say I'm not guilty of that back in before the business owner days. And it's funny. Even in business, they say, you don't put your name on the company because it's not sellable, or you can't brand it, or so many other reasons why. Yet I put my name on all my companies because I wanted to put forth, like, this is who I am. Right. And it turned into, as I became my own brand and my companies became that brand, much like the passion you carry forward, the employees represent that. And if somebody in my organization does something, and one of them is a security firm, a physical security firm. So you think if they have a misstep, I'm not only facing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, I'm costing a client a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, so on far down the chain. And it's like, that is so terrifying to think, oh yeah, tell me your greatest weaknesses, and expecting to hire somebody on that level of integration to my company. That can't be the best question to be asking here, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And people know what these questions are. They can Google these questions too, and they've prepared answers, because everyone's asking the same vanilla, useless questions that, really don't help you differentiate a 5-star candidate from a 1, 2, or 3-star nightmare mishire.
Terrible mishire. And it's funny when you start looking at it, because I know you talk about this, and I'm excited to hear the translation, because people hear about this. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. But I love one thing you just said. It's a $50,000 minimum investment in your organization for your future growth. But beyond that, that's immediately more or less a debt on the company, right? Where an employee should be an asset. Looking at it in that capacity. How does this tie to the profitability? Is there a profit margin of a 3-star employee compared to a 5-star employee? Or I imagine there's.
So here's the deal. A 5-star employee represents the top 15% of available talent in the market. So statistically, 1 out of 7 candidates is a potential 5-star employee. One 5-star employee, and you pay a 5-star employee the same amount that you pay any other person for the role, because you're paying for the role, one 5-star employee does the work of 2 or 3 1, 2, and 3-star employees. So when you have 1, 2, and 3-star employees on your payroll, basically you have an inflated payroll. You're paying 2 people $50,000 a year because they're 2 and 3-star employees, when you could have one 5-star employee that you pay $50,000 a year to. So this is where, and Mike Michalowicz, actually the author of Profit First, and I we're business partners. I am the host of the official podcast, Profit First Nation. And so we're collaborating on his next book that'll come out in December 2023. And what we've seen is that businesses who've implemented Profit First, that have 10 or more employees typically, and $1 million or more in real revenue, just are stymied by why am I still struggling? Why can't I get my operating expenses down? And the problem is that because there's only 2 ways to increase profitability: increase margin, decrease expenses. And so their profitability is in their 2 and 3-star employees collecting paychecks instead of producing a 3x return on their payroll. So ideally you want employees to be producing a 3x return on what you pay them. And so that's where the profitability is, you've got, when you have 2 and 3-star employees, you've got double the payroll than having just one 5-star employee. And let's be honest. I mean, we've all done it, but I'm just going to call you out on this. And I'm going to kindly remind you that you cannot pay for performance improvement. You can't say, oh, if I pay them $10,000 more, I mean, that'll totally motivate them to do better work, because I mean, no one would be paying them $60,000 a year. So if I pay them $10,000 more and they're making $60,000 a year, I mean, they're going to step up their performance because they're going to want to, keep this job. Doesn't work. Never
What about when it
works.
comes to the hiring portion of that? Would a 5-star employee be looking for a higher starting wage?
No,
than that market value?
because a 5-star employee represents the top 15% of available talent at the given rate. So
you don't have to overpay off the get.
There's 3-star employees who think they're worth $100,000. I mean, it just is you definitely can find the right people. And what's funny is we just we had 2 businesses in the same industry, bookkeeping services, that went through one of our cohorts in September. And what was interesting about them is they were very similar. I mean, bookkeeping services, hiring remote employees, and but their pay structures were very different. And they still attracted 5-star candidates, even though one was paying $17 an hour and one was paying $25 an hour. And, these people could be working anywhere. So it does flesh out. I do have to say that you want to be at least in the middle to the upper, percentiles of the salary in your market. So, going on Glassdoor, Googling it to see what the market salary is helpful. I will say you will struggle if the average salary is $17 an hour and you're offering $12 or $13 an hour. You got to fix things. You need to increase your prices so you can afford to pay people, and you need to kind of be in that sweet spot.
Because at the end of the day, a 5-star, you'd imagine, is going to understand their worth as well. They're going to understand and not accept below that market, at least median market value, right?
Right.
So I know that there's a ton of pieces there that we've talked about. Is there, and you mentioned Profit First, is that a great resource to go learn more about this? Where would you push people to learn, business owners, to read up, learn more about this, the podcast? Give us more of like a good resource to have more conversation.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry if I opened up Pandora's box there mentioning that. So Profit First is a cash management system for, it's a DIY cash management system for small business owners. But businesses that are, what's funny is is we've had businesses that, when they started using Profit First, were doing a few $1,000,000 a year. Now they're doing, 10, 20, 30, our company. I mean, when we started Profit First, we were doing like 14, $15 million a year, and, now doing over 40, $45 million a year. And we still do Profit First. So what's cool about Profit First is it allows the business owner to really own the financials of their business, and just understand, how to manage the profitability in real time. When you get your operating or your income statements and your reporting at the end of the month, I mean, that's like looking at a rear view mirror. There's nothing you can change or do. And so Profit First allows you in real time to really make those important decisions that impact your profitability, because there's only two ways to increase profitability: increasing margin, so raising prices, making sure that you've got that margin there, and decreasing expenses. And those are decisions that you have to make in real time. And those are decisions only an owner can make. Your bookkeeper can't say, oh, we need to raise prices, our profitability is only 2%. And they can't say, oh, we need to cut out, these subscriptions that no one's using. They're not going to make those decisions. They're not going to make those recommendations. Only the owner can do that. And so Profit First allows you to really see your business from a cash perspective, and makes it real simple.
That was definitely the Pandora's box you opened on that one. No, I know we want to focus more on this recruitment piece and focusing on that arena. When it comes to that conversation, is there something, a resource in that? I know you have a couple things attached to it for the listeners, with different resources you have online. Can you talk a little bit about what those resources may look like if somebody wants to go dig into them?
So as we've teased a little bit, and we'll get into a deep dive during the tactical episode, but having a process and system checklist for recruiting and hiring, and using objectivity when you hire is super important. So we have the 5-star employee rating system, which, oh my gosh, has 5 criteria that makes up the 5-star system. And you can get that resource on how to use the 5-star employee rating system by texting never settle. So never settle as one word to 411-321. So text as one word, never settle, to 411-321, and you can get the how to hire 5-star employees using the 5-star employee rating system guide.
Love it. I definitely think that guide is worth the text at the very, very least. And the final thing I always ask everybody, and I'm curious because you are so passionate about it, what's the legacy you're wanting to leave on the world by bringing the All In company and helping people understand what a 5-star employee looks like?
Well, a couple of things. It comes like personally, with my dad and his business, and he's been in business for over 45 years, and he's kind of at that stage of, at what point does he exit the business and such. And I'm not involved in his business at all, but he did invite me to sit in on some interviews with his CPA firm for a new controller for his company. And what was interesting was the best candidate my dad eliminated when the guy walked in because he was wearing a suit. And the candidate that my dad liked was the recent UCLA collegiate athlete candidate who didn't even have a degree in accounting or finance, had no experience. And my dad wanted to hire him because he liked the fact that the guy was wearing a polo and jeans like my dad wears. And he was a collegiate athlete like my dad. So, he thought like, we're alike, so I'm going to hire you. But I mean, that would have been a tragic mishire because he didn't have the skills, he didn't have the aptitude, he didn't have the experience to do the job. And the poor guy who walked in a suit, and I have to say, when I saw this guy walk in a suit, I was like, oh, this is a waste of time, because I knew right off the bat that my dad was going to didn't matter his experience. So so it's really important to not be subjective in your hiring, and not try to like the candidate, and not, you've got to be objective. And so we'll get into that.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm definitely looking forward to that Tactical Friday piece. Before we hop off of this portion of it, would you go ahead and let everybody know how can they find you, reach out to you, your social media website? Let us know how we can see more of your content.
Oh, great. Thanks. Well, again, if you actually get that how to hire 5-star employee guide by going to or sending a text, never settle, to 411-321, there's a link there, and you can schedule a 20-minute call with me, and I'll answer questions and kind of help you navigate through your biggest problems and struggles, where you are in terms of recruiting and hiring, or even retaining your 5-star employees. So I would say that would be the best and most direct way to me. But if you want to stay, kind of outside, looking in, you can find me at Danielle Mulvey on Instagram, and Danielle Mulvey on LinkedIn. And our website is 5staremployees.com.
I love it, Danielle. Thank you so much for that insights and sharing that passion that you have with us. And I look forward to breaking it down even further on Tactical Friday.
Awesome.